Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. We are so glad to have every one of us here. Thank you so much for making our time. Um, I know it's quite a very busy day for everyone, but I appreciate the fact that you can take our time to join us on this call. My name is Olajumoke Keturiola. Once again, I want to welcome you to C-Suite Corner with MJ. Um, so for a little bit about this event, I'll call it like a discussion or a webinar. What we normally do here is just to create like a platform for everyone to come in to learn a little bit of um, topics at the intersection of technology and business. We normally have a monthly episode, and this episode we bring in experts from the industry that are going to give us insight into real world experience and how we can navigate the fast changing technology landscape and its impact on business. So once again, I want to welcome you. And then to also bring that this month's episode is actually the future of AI, data and security in finance. Thank you so much once again for joining. We have very amazing lineup of speakers that we're going to meet in a bit. I am the host, and my name is Olajumoke once again, Turiola. I'm the CTO of Ashem Limited, and a lot of people call me MG. MJ, because, and I'd like to say at this point, I want to leave a disclaimer to that name. MJ does not mean Michael Jackson. So if you ask me to take any steps, you're on your own because I don't know how to dance. But I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm also a most valuable professional in Microsoft. And recently, last year, June, I was awarded the Microsoft Regional Director, the first female in MEA, and then the first in Nigeria. I'm also the co-founder of TechScala, a community that is focused on bringing more women into tech. And we do all of this by ensuring that we mentor them and then we give them training in technology related courses or and then so that they can gain certification. I normally say something because a lot of people say, MJ, you're quite biased. Why is it just women? But I'll tell you that if you can wear a virtual skirt, you can join our group. So to meet our panelists, I'm going to be starting with Dr. Harrison. Dr. Harrison is the first person that we're going to be that we're meeting today. Dr. Harrison is a distinguished cybersecurity professional with over 17 years of experience in the field of cyber data and information security. He is currently the Group Chief Information Security Officer at First Bank Nigeria and its subsidiaries, and where he also oversees the security of the bank and the digital assets of the bank. He holds a PhD in management, for master's degree in project management, security management, cyber security, and also management, and several certifications actually to his name. And you can see that because it's going to take us forever to actually start listing all of these. He's not only an expert in the field, but he's also, I would say that he's also a visionary leader and will motivate his team and guide his team towards excellence. He actually he's very passionate about sharing knowledge and insight on cybersecurity, leadership, entrepreneurship, and career success. Thank you once again, Dr. Harrison, for joining us. And the last person that I will be
Thank you, everyone.
introducing, yeah, the next person I will be introducing is Kika Akpeyi. Kika Akpeyi seasoned, is a seasoned professional with over 22 years of banking experience across various national banks. She has worked before in Eco International Bank that later became Sky Bank and even right now Polaris Bank. She also has worked in, she currently right now she works in Heritage Bank. She holds a BSc and a Master in Economics from the University of Lagos, as well as an MBA from Bangor University, UK. She's a fellow um, uh, of the Chartered Institute of Bankers and an associate member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants in the UK. Kika currently is the acting chief audit executive at Heritage Bank, and she's responsible really for evaluating the governance procedure, the risk management framework of the bank. Kika used to be the group head of the internal control at Heritage Bank before her present role. She's actually a trailblazer, a mentor who has groomed numerous young bankers and setting an example as a role model, a space setter, and also a goal getter. I'm actually one of our mentees, so I'm actually very honored to have her. And being the only female in this group of very powerful men, I want to welcome you once again, Kika. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chukwake. Thank you for having me.
All right. So moving on, I want to recognize the presence of David Brown. You know, when you talk about data, I mean, there are so many people that I know that are very, very passionate about data, and David Brown is one of them. When he starts talking about data, in fact, he's one of the people that can make you fall in love with data. It makes it so easy that it gives a form to data that you think data is a human being. So David Brown is the managing partner of D Brown Consulting, a consulting and training firm that helps organizations achieve more with their data. He has over 20 years of experience in data analytics, financial modeling, and business process automation. He's also an international consultant to the World Bank and the Nigerian Governors Forum. He's also a vice president of the Learning and Development Network International. Again, interestingly, he's a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, even also on the data platform. And then he has trained over 20,000 people for free in data, and hosted more than 300 webinars. So I want to welcome you once again, David Brown. Thank you for joining us. I know it's quite a very busy time, but thank you for taking out time to join us.
Thank you, MJ.
So moving next, we always save the best for the last. I'm going to be introducing Bolabo Awelewa. He's an expert. Bolabo is a very good friend of mine. And then, I've had couples of deployment with him. And then I used to say that he's the youngest then, because when we worked in UBA, I think he was the youngest banker at that period of time. Because and I was actually very climbed a very very make a lot of strides during in his career path. So Bolavo Awelewa is an expert in business information system and an enterprise security architecture with nearly 20 years of experience. He's a certified chief information security officer, and he's also the chief information security officer of CyberVagent. He has a lot of certification to his name. A lot of which you can see. And then he has a solid academic background and is very passionate about digital safety. He's also a consultant, a collaborator, and advisor to the board members of various fintech and digital technology startups. So welcome once again, Bolabo. Thank you for taking our time to join us.
Thanks so much, MJ.
All right. So our session today, like I've already said, is the future of AI data and security in finance. So a lot of our housekeeping rules, the session will be recorded and will be made available for future viewing. If you have any questions, please pen it down and then we can actually take your questions afterwards. You can indicate with a raise of hand if you want to speak so that we can unmute you. Follow us on our social media and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, to the topic of the day, we already said is going to be unveiling the landscape of artificial intelligence, data, and security in the financial institution. The realm of generative artificial intelligence has seen very remarkable progress in recent time, captivating the attention of many, really. And then we've seen that there's been this impressive advancement and breakthrough when it comes to generative AI. The market is actually projected to soar from $1.5 billion since 2021 to an impressive $6.5 billion by 2026. And it's actually going to boost a compound annual growth rate of 34.9%. All of these are statistics that are actually what we've seen even from the um, World Bank Forum and all of that. And then we've also seen all of these online, even with Deloitte and all of that, which we'll come to in a bit. Now, when we talk about the advent of generative AI, it has, like I said, it has made a groundbreaking development in the field of artificial intelligence. One of the things that we've seen is that it has actually become something that has replicates human creativity by generating innovative outputs based on training data using advanced machine learning techniques. So we've seen how it has metamorphosed into not just simple image and text generation, but it has actually evolved to including audios, video, and even 3D rendering. So we're actually very, very interested and then anticipating also this advancement, which is going to be coming out in the future. But the question is, how prepared is our financial institution for all of this? Because the realm of the generative artificial intelligence, even though it has seen a remarkable progress in recent years, we've seen that even with this impressive breakthrough, there is a market that is projected to soar in the future, which is very important. That what are we doing in repositioning the financial industry to tap from this growth? And at the same time, what are those things we need to consider in even delving into this from a financial industry perspective? So these are some of the things that our panelists will be talking about today. Yes, there is the Deloitte Generative AI dossier. This report actually delves into immense potential of generative AI across numerous industry verticals. This includes financial, healthcare, technology, media, telecommunications, and beyond. What are we seeing in all of this? But with the ability for it to, because I call it a transformative revolution. How do we enhance customer interaction? How do we optimize efficiency in business operations? The possibility of generative AI is actually truly endless, but how are we tapping into this in the financial sector? Another beautiful thing that I also want to bring to light before we start our question for the day is also to look at what McKinsey Global Institute also predicted. They said implementing generative AI across industries contributes to a staggering $2.6 trillion to a 4.4 trillion annually. And then the result of this survey also shows from this, looking at those that have what I'm more interested in is around the financial industry, those that are using it. So there is also a result of a recent survey conducted by the Economic Intelligence Unit, which highlights the immense importance of AI in the banking industry. It reveals that there's going to be a whooping 70
working in their spaces now. And it's been fun, and even before now. So I've done a lot in customer experience and analytics, and I've known how important data is. Data actually determines the decision, the direction a bank would want to go, because you're processing huge amounts of financial information. You're looking at behavioral, the customer behavior, and from there coming up with strategic initiatives to serve in the financial space. So now, wearing a different cap, audit, the traditional method of audit, of conducting audit in the past, just required you to take samples for reviews. But with the advent of data analytics, AI, and all what we're saying, you find that you can process large volumes of data more efficiently, and auditors can have more time to do more in-depth reviews. I mean, the information they generate. So I would look at this from three areas. I would look at AI-powered data analytics. I would look at predictive analytics for risk assessments, like my colleague had mentioned, and I think cybersecurity and data protection. So a lot of institutions, financial institutions, have actually started to pay interest in AI and machine learning. And you see, utilizing AI algorithms and machine learning models, audit processes itself can analyze financial transactions more quickly, more accurately, and then you're able to identify patterns, anomalies, and potential risks, and more effectively than the traditional way of reviewing. You have the AI tool that you're exposed to, depending on the data you expose it to. It's scanning data constantly. It's creating rules in some cases and models that organizations can work with. So organizations can actually leverage on this to automate repetitive audit tasks such as data extraction, validation, reconciliation, like we do. We are doing a lot of that. We are providing assurance for the institution. We're checking that the controls are in place. So what this AI-driven tools would do for you is to help pick and spot immediately things that are deviating from what the system wants it to do actually, or what the controls in place ought to do. So looking at the strategic initiatives, like my colleague said, a lot of institutions already have some tools, audit tools, and other, data analytic tools they're using. So for the audit space, I believe that investments is still important. It's either you're upgrading or you're acquiring these tools and platforms that would help you integrate your existing systems. And definitely when you do that, it would also help auditors with more advanced analytics capabilities and real-time insights. For predictive analytics, you would find that when you power it with AI, you can forecast future risks and trends using historical data. So like I said earlier on, you
Hello,
expose...
Kika. Lisa,
Hello.
I think we keep, yes, I think we keep losing you every now and then. Maybe you can make do with data with by turning off your camera. I think the audience will have put a face to your
Okay.
name already, so
Oh,
that we can,
wow.
yes.
So you've been losing... Okay. It's network.
Uh,
It's
I could
definitely
hear
all
you
right then.
clearly.
network. Okay, you could
Yeah.
hear me. Okay,
Yes, I
so
could hear
thank you.
everything.
So as I was saying, I said with predictive analytics, you can forecast future risks. You can look at trends using historical data and patterns. And so auditors are able to proactively take steps, identify issues, and take preventive measures. So when you're analyzing a huge amount of data using internal or external data sources, financial records, market data, even regulatory information, predictive analytics help you enhance your risk assessment processes. And so organizations can benefit from this. So what do you do as an organization? You can develop a predictive analytics model tailored to your risk profile, and of course taking into context what the industry is, and then you can leverage on other advanced data science techniques and expertise for your risk identification, assessment, and mitigation strategies. So looking at cybersecurity and data protection, I think this is also very important. And with the incidents and increase in cyber threats, data breaches, integrating cyber security technologies into our processes, our audit processes today is essential to safeguard financial information, because you know how important confidentiality is, and of course ensuring data integrity as well. AI also, that's AI capabilities, also can aid your security technologies in achieving a 360-degree monitoring of events and incidents. So what you have is when you expose this, continuously expose this data to the AI space, it continues to bring up security notifications. In some cases, it will even check. It can even help you look at incidences that haven't been captured before and bring it up. So I think you can benefit from that. Let me not just waste time. So the idea for every organization is to strengthen what you have today. Strengthen your cybersecurity measures and controls across audit processes, including data collection, storage, and even analysis. And so I think also organizations should pay attention to compliance and regulatory requirements, data protection regulation, PCI DSS. I think all that guides what we do. So it's key. And I believe that Nigeria is on the right trajectory. Thank you. Blockchain is
Thank you
also
so.
important. Audit trails,
Yeah.
transparency. And so we can go on and on, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kika. That's a lot of insights to that question. Thank you. And I like the fact that you said data actually determines the direction um, of what the bank is doing today, because there are massive data that you are in custody of, and having to ensure that you can actually use AI and then couple with predictive data analytics, as you said, with the cybersecurity technologies at your disposal to ensure that at the end of the day, you can actually shape the future of financial audit practices in the financial institution is quite very key. Thank you so much for that insight. And I'll be moving on real quickly to the data man himself. Um, I don't know if I can have David Brown. Maybe we can have his camera turned on so that I can just get him right now to the next question I have. All right, thank you. So yes, I know Kika really touched a lot, and then Dr. Harrison also have also touched a lot on data. But I tell myself we can do more justice to questions when it comes to predictive analytics, when it comes to data, other than the powerful man himself. And then we all know that data is the lifeblood of any artificial intelligence model that is created today. It is actually that work that drives any artificial intelligence work or any generative AI today is massive data set that is relying on. So I want to ask, how do you foresee the evolution of predictive analysis within financial institutions? um, what do you see as those specific applications that you envision for predictive modeling in critical areas such as risk management? Dr. Harrison said some things around fraud detection and customer retention. How do you see predictive analytics playing in all of these? What are those um, what's the future really of the financial sector, and when it comes to predictive analysis, how this development is expected to enhance decision making, mitigate risk, and drive customer engagement and loyalty from an increasing data driven environment like a financial institution?
Yeah, thanks, MJ, for this. And of course, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. I think I mean, a lot of everybody's talking about AI and stuff, but AI is not new, right? I mean, I don't know if maybe I can bring the audience in. When did it start? When did AI as a field start? Just type the year in the chat. If you can predict, don't Google it, please. Just type what comes to mind. When did it start? This AI thing that we're talking about. Who can guess? Okay, give me a range, a decade, the decade that it started. 1980s, 70s, what type?
Yeah,
2004, Jennifer, you're far, 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 far in the future. It's in the past, far in the past. Nope, 2000. Well, it started around like 1947, around 1940s, not even
70
47,
years ago.
1940s.
Wow.
1940s, yes.
Yeah.
So the one you would know well is Turing, right? Alan Turing, when he kind of cracked that code, the Enigma code for the German code in the war. So he cracked it with a machine. That was kind of the start of AI. And he said something then. He said that, look, AI would really come of age when you pass the Turing test. So he devised this thing called the Turing test, where he said, look, if you can be speaking to AI, talking to AI, or chatting with AI, and you cannot distinguish it from a human being, then it has really reached almost the level where we should start getting scared. And really, I think that's where we are now. That's why the whole world is abuzz with AI, because the last few years, AI has actually reached that stage. I'll probably post something on the chat. One big issue when it comes to risk and AI is something called hallucination, AI hallucination. What does that mean? Hallucination in real life, what someone's hallucinating, right? Just saying things. But AI says things too. And that's because this generative AI field that we're in, it is generating stuff from all the data, all the things it has learned, right? And it's generating from scratch. And just like us human beings, we can say things that are wrong, right? But this one says things that are wrong very convincingly. So there's a huge risk there. So you could say 100, maybe 99 things right, and then one thing wrong, and someone dies. Who takes that responsibility of that person that died from that wrong thing that AI did? Is it the chief risk officer? Is it the chief information officer? Is it the CEO? Who will take the responsibility? Because AI obviously can't take the responsibility. So there are risks, right? And those risks kind of fall into that hallucination that I talked about. It's a big issue. The people that have built what is going on now are not fully aware of how it works. They have an idea, but they're not fully aware, so they can't replicate the same results. But as I said, AI has been here for a very, very long time. One quick example I'll give is your Netflix account. If you go on Netflix and just chat, open Netflix, it knows your history and knows, okay, well, potentially, what would this person like to watch? All that is AI. All your social media, every time you put a like, so that like button, the intern, I think that was in Facebook that kind of brought that like button. That's huge because at the end of the day, you need clean data and there are certain triggers. You have various triggers that you use to determine certain things. So that like and unlike button, that's huge because they can say, okay, what are the things they like? Oh, these are all the things he likes. What are other things, other people that like this? What did they also watch? What did they also talk about? And it comes down to financial institutions as well. How do we predict? How do we measure risk? Because every financial institution, what they're interested in is managing risk, right? So you have an insurance company. At the end of the day, he's giving out life insurance. He wants to understand that risk level. What is the risk profile of this person that we're giving this insurance policy to? The bank, what's the risk profile of this person we're giving a loan to? So as you know, in Nigeria, we don't have really strong credit rating agencies. We're not really strong on credit. The US, every other developed country has that really well established. And just like telco, you remember we used to have what, 200,000 lines in Nigeria before the mobile field, but now we probably have more lines per person than some countries in Europe. And that's because we just leapfrog that technology straight to mobile, right? Same thing will happen around this field where we have, yes, artificial intelligence has come in and we can kind of jump certain hoops. But the issue there is we need the foundational data. We need clean data. You cannot, as a bank, maybe an insurance company, you cannot not have clean data on your customers. You can't say, okay, I pick out this customer, I know everything, all the transactions I've ever had with him. We don't have clean data, and that's going to be a big issue because it's only one version of the truth you need to have. we have multiple versions in different silos, in different databases, and it's going to be very difficult for us to harness that, right? So in credit risk management, or you need to start thinking of alternative credit models. So quite a few startups are already doing that and going to disrupt the financial space. So, I mean, you could check your phone habits. How many of us here, okay, let me ask another question. How many of us have left our credits in our phone to die before we recharge? When was the last time your phone died, as in you didn't have any credit and then you had to recharge? For me, I can't remember when, but anybody here, if you remember, then you're a higher risk that you're not going to pay off your loan. It's because they've done that predictive model that says, hey, if you have, I mean, every single time you have to remind yourself, it goes off and then you now recharge, or maybe you use the phone or you make calls around 3 o'clock in the morning and you're not a security guard, you're not, so you're trying to take advantage of those cheaper rates. But there's so many phone habits that we do, right? That is kind of predictive of whether or not we're going to pay off our loans. And that data is being mined now. We have those machine learning models. We have artificial intelligence that can actually scale up the mining of that data. And it's cheap, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper every day. So they'll be able to predict using those parameters, using your social media habits, using your habits in general to know whether you're risky or not. And really, that's what financial institutions are, is measuring risk. And of course, the industry or the specialist that does that best is the actuary, right? Those I think those actuaries, if they can leverage artificial intelligence, they're really going to do extremely well. So actuaries are those that analyze financial risk, cost and risk and uncertainty. They use all these mathematical models, statistics, and financial theory to assess risk and potential of a potential event happening or not happening. And so they work mostly with insurance. But yeah, I think that skill set with AI, with technology, is going to be a massive game changer. But really, you don't need that deep skill with the AI we have now. I mean, I used to want to learn how to code, but right now, in the next, 3-4 years, there'll probably be no developers because AI will be able to do all the coding. But you will still need to know a higher level of coding. You need to have a general idea what this whole thing is about so you can actually review the AI. Remember, I said it hallucinates, right? So you can tell lies very convincingly. So the future is very interesting, but I think companies should focus on, look, let's clean out our data. And what's happening now is data silos are falling because at the end of the day, you need the data all in one place for AI to really work for corporates. So you have a First Bank, how many hundred and something years old? Do we have that data for that 100 something years that we can pipe through AI through it? And
Oh,
Hello? I want to know if it's from my
yeah.
end.
Yeah,
I
so I
can't
think
hear
we just lost it. Yes, we just lost him.
audio. Maybe you should turn off his video
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I think so. So we just want to wait a little bit for David Brown to come back in. Yeah, so we lost you a bit,
yeah,
David Brown. So, yeah,
yeah.
so I
So
don't
so
know,
maybe
but
I should stop there. I think it's
maybe you
I'll
can
stop
also
there for
turn on
now.
your video if you want, if you're still talking. All right then. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, and for that very, very, very great insight into how data is very useful in all of this. And I think one of the key takeaway for me, just like someone said the last episode we had, that you can only control what you can measure, and then I think that's going around even what you've been saying is quite very important. That even while we are harnessing the power of AI, data at the center of it is actually also important that we make use of clean data. And I like that statement of the hallucination of AI. I think this will be my first time of hearing the hallucination of AI. Interestingly, thank you so much, David Brown, for that. And I think to my very wonderful friend Jen Bolabo, this is the next question I'll be directing to. Um, when you talk about the people that are the aim of risk, at the aim of compliance, at the aim of security. Yes, this is one person that I will always go to say, oh, give me your thoughts on this. So my question to you, Bolabo, is in light of the increasing integration of AI technologies within the financial industry, just like what the other speakers have said, on how we can start seeing how AI is being infused into financial sector. How do you anticipate this advancement impacting the security landscape in the coming years? Um, we know what we can think of right now, but let's look into the future. What do you think is going to be like? And what's the proactive measures that you actually advise organizations to implement to ensure that the security and integrity of AI-driven systems and also these algorithms that are used in financial operations are safeguarded against any form of potential cybersecurity threats or vulnerability?
Thanks a lot, MJ, and thank you for having me again. So, since the advent of AI, there's been a lot of conversations around how, we're leveraging AI from a cybersecurity perspective, especially from managing, risk and fraud. But, this integration to AI technologies, over time has presented opportunities, a lot of them, and obviously a lot of security challenges. You need to be able to regulate and manage, the idea of having a solution or a service that you can't control on its own by default, introduces a lot of exposure. So yes, there's a bit of paranoia, from a, security management perspective on the implementation or the integration of artificial intelligence or even digital technology generally. And then I'll say some of the ways, that it has impacted the financial services is, aside the benefits, is, it has increased the attack surface generally. AI powered systems, are deployed, by cyber criminals now, on their own too, to be able to devise more advanced or more crafty ways of, breaching systems or leveraging the technology itself to get the kind of information they need to maybe to perpetrate fraud or, or breach an environment. And these days, attackers usually will target vulnerabilities in AI models themselves. For example, David mentioned AI as hallucination. You can imagine looking at that gap or, or you can call it as that specific gap that you can actually literally get into a particular system and you're sure that specific information would get you a particular response that would lead to a specific breach. And so you need to secure the AI models themselves, the kind of data that you train, you train them on, and also the underlying infrastructure they run on. It's very important. So who has access to them, who controls, data fed into the systems. Another way is the evolving attack methods. Like I said, cyber criminals are constantly developing new techniques, and just the same way AI is helping you build solutions quickly and advanced technology is also helping cyber criminals, develop new techniques to exploit vulnerabilities. So it's a bit of a race, who's ahead of the curve, who has the right information, who can manipulate effectively. And so it's like having hacking skills, make the decision, be a bad actor or be a white, ethical hacker. So same benefits and advantages of leveraging AI. And so AI has become this sophisticated that we know. And so the methods to use to attack are becoming more sophisticated. And this means, financial institutions would need to constantly, continuously be vigilant, and adapt, security strategies accordingly. So, you can't be too sure that, I've made specific investments in security controls or cybersecurity program. You need to continuously be learning, understanding the threat landscape, monitoring, threat intelligence, new attack vectors coming out and ways to prevent them from breaching your service or solutions or even your customer data. And then there's also the potential for bias, which goes to the point. So, the interesting thing with the points raised is, David Brown has talked about as, AI hallucination, and which leads to the bias. So an example of the bias is, the kind of data that is entered or trained on, it can lead to discriminatory outcomes. So for example, unfair loan denials or biased investment recommendations. based on the kind of info or my region or territory. And there could be, I think there was a recent issue around Google's AI where you feed information into it. And I think it was giving some sort of racial, racist images, the generative AI for Google.
Yeah.
That happened recently, and there was a lot of, so that is obviously either a mistake, from the code being built or obvious bias from some information that has been fed into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening. That would happen a lot, and more would happen. So proactive measures for that organization, financial institutions need to put in place, would include, especially to ensure security and integrity of the AI-driven systems and the algorithms, the organizations are implementing. Security by design. This is a recommendation we've always given from way back, from day one. And that's, as you build, ensure you are integrating, into your development process, different and specific controls from policies, even to specific procedures, the logic of your services or solutions to specific controls, to manage your code. And the idea is to be able to carry out a thorough assessment of the AI models while you're implementing appropriate safeguards to it. Major emphasis on data security today. There's a lot of emphasis on, ensuring your data is secure, your customer data is secure. Organizations need to be able to ensure that, data used to train AI models, are secure and protected from unauthorized access and manipulation. So just imagine the kind of data that, that are being trained can be manipulated, and then the integrity of such data or the output, the integrity of the output of that AI system, is flawed and of course won't be utilized, based on the results. And this would include implementing data encryption, access control systems, monitoring systems. It's a race, it's a journey. And permit me to flaunt a bit. I would always tell people that, see, once you're in the cybersecurity space, you would never run out of opportunities. As technology is advancing, more digital channels, more forms of automation, there would always be a need to continuously secure, as you go, staying ahead of the curve. So data security is really key. And then transparency and explainability. Kika mentioned the blockchain, and today technology is becoming more fluid and, and adaptable. So, it's critical that the AI models, it's important they can understand how, it's important people, users or even, the end user, which is maybe say financial institutions now, can understand how the AI models are making the decision. So today, a lot of us have jumped on it. A lot of people have jumped on it, and they're not necessarily sure. But now there's a lot of conversation going on that how is this AI service making this decision? So if you want to have the customer, if you want to keep your customer sticky to your service or to your specific product, leveraging on AI, you need to be sure of the source. Is it is it transparent? Is it explainable? Is it relatable? And this would allow organizations to be able to identify and mitigate, the potential biases, and ensure that the models are functioning as intended, and this and a lot more. And overall, continuous monitoring and, employee awareness training. So continuous monitoring helps you know new trends on the landscape, as technologies are advancing, new functionality, new features, specific controls need to be in place. From an employee awareness training perspective, it is more of, what, AI is here, and you can't just take so for example, for a developer or a junior DBA, like we'll say in professional exams, you just go ahead and you just go to AI for every assignment you're given, and then you slam to production, and that exposes your service or, production environment.
Yeah.
So, awareness needs to be continued that AI is here to enhance and fast track your implementation or deployment, but not necessarily just copy and paste and you run with it. So these are a few points I would like to raise and then pass it on.
All right then. Thank you so much. I think the key thing for me here is more about the responsible use of AI, which is very, very paramount. I mean, the last session I had, I mean, a lot of organizations, like they said, jump into this real fast, but even security comes last. It's always a discussion for later. Maybe when things go wrong, that's when security and start coming. But it's also very important that at the time when you're planning your AI initiatives for your organization, infuse technology. in the go run. Educate your staff, ensure that they know what they're doing, ensure they know which data they are putting where, and then so that at the end of the day, you do not form victim of any form of vulnerability or threats that comes with the use of this technology. Thank you so much, Balaba, for that insight. So my last question goes to Dr. Harrison. Because I know you talked about fraud detection. I don't know if we can still have Dr. Harrison here. Um, you talk about fraud detection, and then I want to understand how is your own organization. I mean, I'm speaking to how your own organization right now is addressing the risk inherent in AI-driven decision making, particularly in critical areas such as credit scoring, which you mentioned, and then fraud detection. How does your organization address the fact that upholding the integrity and reliability of financial operations? Um, is there any form of specific strategy, safeguards, or monitoring mechanism, like you mentioned, that you've put in place to ensure accuracy, fairness, and transparency of those algorithms utilized in any of the processes around credit scoring and fraud detection? Yes, about you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And just again, just confirm that you can hear me.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me speak to fraud detection and credit scoring. It will be more in a general sense, but you can pick in between. Okay, so first is fraud is as old as anything you can imagine. There's always been fraud, recorded or not recorded fraud. And somebody will always want to get access to a resource that it doesn't have the permission or the approval, the clearance to. Okay, so it comes down to fraud and fraudulent practices. So either internal fraud, external fraud, intersect fraud, where you have collusion between external people and internal people. Okay. Then either what do you call an assisted or unassisted fraud? Okay, you can actually build fraud into a process, and that fraud can run. I tell you, there's an organization I will not mention that when they finally audited, they found out they have bought a resource or that can last the organization for almost 90 years. Okay, they actually have a warehouse where they have been storing because the process requires them to buy it every year. The process did not require them to check if they had anyone remaining. Okay, so every year they kept buying, even though they were not using it. So that's the process-driven, a process-enabled fraud. Okay, so what are banks doing today to contain fraud? You see, there are the kind of fraud that happen in a bank are in different shapes and forms. Okay, you have fraud of check fraud. You have all kinds of impersonation. You have what they call suppression. There are all kinds of fraud you will see in the bank. But where artificial intelligence is coming very strongly is what you call the customer initiated transactions. Okay, which is transactions over the digital channels. So you can do transfer. You can check your credit, you can pay for services and all that. So that's one area. There's also a very strong inroad in what we call the internal employee fraud management, which is the transaction that happen over the counter, which is a transaction being performed on behalf of a customer. So you have the customer initiated transactions. We have transactions where a staff of a bank is performing a transaction on behalf of a customer. So when you're depositing a check, when you're depositing a cash, do you understand? So someone will take that cash and deposit on your behalf. Okay, fraud can happen there. You can decide to deposit less than that. You can decide to delay the deposit. Do you understand? So that's all kinds of fraud, okay, that can happen in a financial institution. You have also what you can see like an activation of a dormant account. It's also a fraud, okay? Maybe account has been on dormant for a while, someone can activate it and then start to play around the account. So that's also kind of fraud. But I'll tell you what AI is doing today. Okay, having understood clearly that you cannot, the fraud is not something you just like hunger. It's not something you wake up tomorrow and say, from 1st of March, there will no longer be fraud. There will be fraud. People will always attempt to get access to more resources that have been approved for them. So what is AI doing? Now banks are investing in capabilities. Let me talk about the digital channels. To be able to build both scenario-based and artificial intelligence-enabled capabilities in terms of fraud management. So what does that do? So what that does is that it takes, for example, Harrison's transaction in the last 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, okay? Then it studies that transactions, okay? Then you can build scenarios, okay? For the scenario base, then you have the artificial intelligence base. So for the scenarios base, for example, say, if this transaction is in line with the transaction pattern, you're using the same device to transact or transacting from the same ISP. You understand? Please, you can request for additional authentication. You can stop the transaction. You can schedule the transaction for interrogation. Okay, those for scenario based. But this is where AI comes in. So AI say, listen, so you have taken the record of this customer for 3 years, but I can actually follow the customer. I can follow the customer. So what it then means is that I can study the customer going forward. When does the customer transact? What kind of things does the customer buy? Okay. Where in the day? What is the pattern of transaction of this customer? Okay. Can I build it over 6 months or 1 year or 2 years? Because what it does is that as you progress, it gets better. Okay. Because then there are a number of data sets that you can infuse together and be able to make a near perfect decision. So just imagine a customer that we've enrolled on this system now says, okay, I got social engineered. Okay, somebody called me. He has obtained my mobile banking username and password. Okay, the person have even gone ahead to enroll on mobile banking. So the person tries to initiate a transaction, but this transaction is coming from a new device. It's coming from probably a different ISP. The amount is different. This is not the time that this customer sends this kind of money or spends this kind of money or is buying a utility for the first time that this customer had not. He's sending an account, he's sending to a new account number like this. So there are so many data sets that the AI can look at immediately and say, no, I'm suspecting this transaction. Do you understand? And 90% of the time, it is true. Okay, 90% of the time, it is true. So in some cases, we can bifurcate it as, okay, for this, I have sufficient evidence that this is fraudulent transaction. In this case, I do not have sufficient evidence, but I suspect this transaction. So can you query it further? In that case, you can have some self-assistance query where you ask additional questions, or you can get to call the customer. Now, let me give you an example. You still have that 10% where it is the customer. Okay, you lost your phone, so you have a new phone. You are paying for something for the first time. You just got co-opted into a new service. You travel to a new location. So yes, you have cases where the customer say, yes, I am the person doing the transaction. It is not my normal transaction, but I am the person. Do you understand? So in that case, you say, yes, let me normalize it and just add it. So that's where so what it then does is that security is shifting, going beyond protection of credentials. Okay, don't share your PIN, don't share your card pan, don't share your username, and don't share your sensitive data, to behavior. So shifting from credential focus to behavior focus. So, and it is difficult to replicate a behavior. Do you understand? Because unless you follow the person, even when you do deep fake, you understand? There's always something you may not know about this person. In some cases, truly, the AI actually will know more than you do know yourself, because there are certain things you do that you are not even aware you do them. Okay, you can travel to a location, for example, and a system can remind you that you were there 10 years ago on a certain date, which you have probably forgotten. You understand? So this is where on the internal employee fraud is also coming off stronger. You understand? by looking at transactions and checking if, for example, people that visited this system visited the other system, right? And one day you have someone visiting one system and not the other, okay? Then so if this is out of pattern with the kind of transaction that involve these systems, or you have a team where one person, everybody is behaving in a certain way, but one person is behaving differently. Do you understand? Because now today you have capabilities to do what they call a balance check. Before now, you say, okay, I'm building a profile. You say, yes, if I know that you start building my profile today, I can bias the system. That's where the AI bias comes in. I can bias it. So I can stay fraudulent from day one. So my fraudulent nature becomes a normal nature. You understand? So there's nothing out of pattern because it is ab initio fraudulent. But what if I do team comparison? What if I check Harrison against his peers? I can now see, oh, even though this is normal to him, but it's out of order with the people in the same kind of role. Then you can pick up something and say, hey, there's something going on here. So this is where AI is coming strongly. In terms of credit rating, it's also coming, and I like the way Brown had captured it. Okay, if you take data feed from everywhere, okay, data is so funny that you can't really fall far from your historic behaviors. People don't sort it. That's why they say fraud is not something you wake up and commit. No, you build it over time. Okay, so I can actually look at certain data around this person and I say this person will betray you, and this person. And this is where again intuition comes in. When you say, let me on a lighter note, you show your 5 friends to someone and the person say, oh, I've looked at them, 2 of them are your friends, the other ones are just tagging along. Do you understand? Because there's some kind of intuition I have run on them and I know that. And if you check it, 99% of the time, it is correct. You understand? So that's where it comes in also. So look at it, take data feed, okay, take the telco record that let's say, take the credit scoring record, take the behavior of the person. Even look at the person if a salary earner. Look at from the day the person gets paid, the kind of things that the person spend on. This one will not pay a loan. Okay. Also check if the person is back to back on loan and there's only one source. Okay. So you know that if anything happens to that source, you understand that the person, the tendency to default will be very high. So you can look at 2 people and say, hey, I can give you 100,000 loan, but I can give the other person 10,000. You understand? Because the credit score is risky. It has a risky credit score. So this is where AI is coming strongly, and this is where First Bank is taking absolute, utmost advantage in both fraud control and credit. So today we have Lalo lending, and we're able to look at customers, both whether you are in or out, to say, okay, I have looked at you, I've looked at a few things, I can offer you this loan with no interaction with anyone. Do you understand? By just looking at certain data that is available. And most times, almost all the times, we get it right. There's always that bias that we talk about and the black box nature of AI, okay? That you may have chances that there's a certain level of bias that you have integrated into the system that will give you a result different from what you have planned. But majority of the time, if you leverage artificial intelligence and other data sets that you have, and let me not stop before speaking without speaking about 3 major issues impacting all this, okay? One of them will be data availability. Even before you talk about data quality, the data have to be available for you to know whether it's good or bad, okay? So data availability, having the data. Today we have decentralized data stores, okay? How can we put this data together, clean them up and be able to use it to do a lot of things, a lot of insight. Then you also have interpretability, okay? How do I now make sure that in this complex set, I'm able to predict and explain how it worked? Or I should just take the answer? That's another. Then we also have talked about bias, which is key in the entire scenario, because bias will not just lead to wrong result. Sometimes it causes a lot of inconvenience to the person that is receiving it. So let me again stop here for others to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's a lot of insight for me that and I think it should be a lot of report to even the audience that are here that there are actually the banking industry in Nigeria, First Bank leading that, there are actually safeguards and plans or our like strategies and monitoring mechanisms to ensure a lot of this accuracy, a lot of this transparency, a lot of this fairness, even within the AI algorithm as you utilize it in the bank or for the processes you're running. And then, so thank you so much. I mean, there's been a lot of insight here. I'm looking at it that this time that we have is actually too small for a lot of this discussion because I'm gaining a lot here. Thank you so much. I don't know if Kika is still around. Yes, I think yeah. So my next question is to Kika. I know you're around. I can hear you. So I want to ask that how do you think that financial institution can strike a balance between leveraging AI for efficiency and maintaining human oversight for ethical decision making?
Okay. I would say first of all, we first need to have a governance framework. You see,
Absolutely.
you're introducing AI into your day-to-day operations now, and so just the same way you have governance procedures before the advent of AI, you also need to put that in place. And this framework should outline the roles, responsibilities, and all anything decision making related to AI, the implementation of AI. And this framework should include mechanisms for human oversight, accountability, and then ethical review of AI algorithms and models. Now, you should also develop and adhere to ethical AI principles because they exist. And these principles should prioritize privacy, robustness of the solution, security, fairness, transparency, accountability, and responsibility. So you should ensure that the AI systems are designed and deployed to uphold the standards and respect the rights and interests of your customers and stakeholders. You see, at the end of the day, everything you're doing is to serve the customer and you cannot take them out. I'm glad that we are hearing today of AI hallucination. It's scary, but I'm holding that one. And then, so going on with this balance, human oversight. So even when you have implemented AI, you should have experts. You should have people that, I mean, the technology guys, the cyber security experts, all those people should still review the AI generated outcomes or decisions, provide context and also be able to make ethical judgments where necessary, ensuring that the AI output aligns with the standards that the organizations have set for themselves and also regulatory requirements, more importantly. Now, continuous monitoring and evaluation. This is so important. Going back to AI hallucinations, we've heard that, I mean, it's not because it's not perfect, it's not a perfect system. So the data may not be clean, and so you need to constantly monitor, implement monitoring and evaluation processes that would assess the performance and the fairness of what your AI systems actually churn out from time to time. And the need for this monitoring is very important because systems can fail. There's a recent World Economic Forum survey and on top global risks, and it showed AI generated misinformation or disinformation as the second highest risk. So I actually would also recommend that, we monitor continuously as we continue to introduce it into our processes. And then training, constant training of your employees in AI development and oversight, ensure that they have the necessary skills required to actually handle these technologies, or this the introduction of this into your systems and processes, because it will guide your decisions in the long run. I don't know if that helps.
Yes.
On the cost, okay. I wanted to say something on the customer part,
Okay.
balancing. You also need to do a lot of disclosure to your customers, especially when you have introduced a lot AI technologies into the financial products and processes, and even the services that you're offering them. So why do I say that? Today, even though I know that we have advanced in terms of getting people, onboarding people onto electronic platforms, you still have people that are, they don't trust the system. They don't trust, they're very, they are like averse
Skeptical. Yeah.
to anything that is technology related. So banks must do a lot of disclosures, explain to customers, explain what kind of data they're collecting and why they're collecting this information. And then we must ensure that we adhere to data privacy regulations. And it's important also that you get customer consent when you want to use their personal data. It's very important, because we've had cases where something goes wrong and you say, oh, I didn't sign for this, and by the time it's being addressed, the banks have to refund, make refunds. So we're moving into more delicate spaces that require continuous education, like my colleague said. So it's important to carry people along and set up processes that would build confidence and trust in what you're trying to sell to the market. I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I thank you, and I like the fact that it's very important that the customers are carried along. I mean, they are the we are the custody of this technology. However, the data of these customers are in our care, and then it's quite very important that customers know technology is what it's doing, and what effect is having on their data. And then specifically that data comes to Naira, or their or the currency that is with the bank. I mean, and apart from all of that, every other information that we keep. Thank you so much for that, Kika. That was very insightful. I'm just going to ask Bolabo one last question before I go to David, because I know our time is fast spent, and then I crave the indulgence of all of our audience. Thank you so much for still being with us. So the question I'm going to ask to Bolabo is more on, right. So let's say data breaches happens. You've talked about unauthorized access to sensitive financial data. What do you advise that organizations should do in effectively mitigating this risk? And are there any kind of comprehensive protocols that you advise that they should implement to ensure swift and efficient responses during a breach?
All right, thanks, MJ, for the question. So to run through it quickly, because I know we are out of time. So mitigating the risk of data breaches, organizations should align to. Some of them have been, from my own experience, especially with financial sector, some controls are in place, but some need to be improved on, some need to be properly adhered to, like religiously followed. Would start from implementing strong access controls. We've seen organizations that have so many controls in place, but identity security is not effective. Privileged account management, ensuring role-based access indeed, actually. So having strong access control, would help you, mitigate specific data breach. Regularly updating and patching systems, that is a no, as in, it's a conversation we have, and I'm sure Jumoke talks about this every month, from a patch perspective. Encrypting sensitive data, it's becoming a thing now. It used to be a bit of a challenge, especially in the financial services sector, from an integration point of view, still making the data readable or useful. But now, it's achievable, and we're succeeding at it from a digital perspective. The cheapest and the most affordable, that is educating employees on security best practices. Very affordable, super free. You can do it every day. It's like evangelizing. Just be a Jehovah Witness from a cybersecurity perspective. Keep educating, keep evangelizing. Monitor systems for suspicious activities. So monitoring and incident response. We've seen organizations invested so much money on security controls, but they are not monitoring. They're not checking data. They don't know the advantages or benefits of correlation activities on their security monitoring tools. And this more attention needs to be paid to this. Thank God for the concept of MSSP now. Businesses can focus on business as usual while you let your outsourced security provider, perform in-depth, monitoring, alerting, reporting for you effectively. Conduct regular security assessments. I have customers, I've seen, organizations, financial institutions trying to save cost on regular security assessments. With AI, you need to regularly assess, draw up attack models for, how would I put it? Different attack methods and patterns should be thrown at the AI models to see how secure they are. It's really important. So talking about protocols quickly, so protocols that can be put in place for swift and efficient breach response is have a plan in place. So incident response plan, have a breach response plan in place. You need to be able to, and it has to be detailed, outline it, from the first to the end. In the event of a breach, include notification as in procedures, containment measures, evacuation steps, you need to have that in place. Next will be assemble a breach response team. So have a team assigned. So I remember working in the financial services, I was part of a couple of teams, and, we carry out tabletop exercises, we carry out preventive or proactive tests periods where we don't need to wait for an actual incident. We need to be sure these controls put in place actually would work. It's very critical. Contain the breach, in the situation where there's an actual breach, you need to be able to contain it. And it will most likely always involve isolation of compromised system, shutting down, affected services or application. I've had a customer that didn't want to shut down because more customers were onboarding, but meanwhile, the fraud was going on. And they're like, hey, you need to make a decision, so take production down. And investigate the breach, obviously, and it involves, scoping the breach appropriately, knowing what data was compromised, and, also knowing how the breach occurred, like a root cause analysis. How did it happen, And then notify affected individuals and regulators. This is a very interesting one. Obviously, letting your customers know. For the regulators bit, I think we're improving more on this. Harrison would know, better, letting your regulators know about specific breaches. But then again, it used to be a challenge. There's that fear of why share this information, the impact it would have on the brand of the organization. But, sharing is a bit of a community effect. Organization A has been breached based on this pattern, and we see it happen globally. They share information, and it's a bit informational for us that, okay, this has happened, with organization A in Helsinki. So every other person in the world should be able to, put adequate controls in place to mitigate, that kind of exposure or breach. And then finally, I would say learning from the breach, conduct like a post-mortem analysis, identify areas for improvements within the organization's security posture. And this also most always extends to the community too. So, and it shows responsible, in fact, the disclosure bit is more of a responsible disclosure. And then also sharing the learnings is also from a responsibility perspective that, it's like CSR. We're putting it out there. We were breached. This is how we were breached, and these are the controls we've put in place. It's the responsible thing to do. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. That's really really detailed enough. I think so every one of us on this call will would have gained something from all that Bolabo said there. And my last question before we start taking questions from the audience goes to David Brown. I just want to find out real quickly. Looking at the edge, I mean, this is talking about preparation for the future. What would be the most significant opportunities and challenges in harnessing the power of this AI? I hear you talk about AI hallucination and all of that, but how do you think that we can harness the power of AI, data and security to drive transformational change in the financial industry? And then how can we prepare for the future for this?
Yeah, so thanks a lot. I think we've said a lot already. Maybe I'll just add governance to it, because at the end of the day, large corporations, you have your board, you have your management, but really the board has to kind of wake up and say, okay, this is an opportunity and a threat, and let's lead from the top, right? Let's start putting frameworks in place, governance frameworks in place. There is a body that was formed, I think, Wharton on AI in 2019. It's called Artificial Intelligence Risk Governance and Risk and Security, AIRS is the name of the website. I'm going to post that website there. And what they're trying to help on is really get people understanding that, look, when it comes to artificial intelligence, the entire organization is affected. And at board level, you need to start defining certain things. So they formed it in New York in 2019. It's grown to, I think, probably 100 members now. It's just everything is free. They have a white paper they released in 2023 where they kind of broke down what governance should look like, data-related risks, breaking that down, AI and ML attacks, what do you do there, testing and trusting systems, and then compliance in general. So they have some interesting questions. They said, okay, currently, if you want to assess your organization, do you currently have a definition of what AI is? Is there an official definition of AI and ML in your organization? Because if you ask different people, what's AI, what's ML, they give you all sorts of definitions. Do you have one that's consistent across your organization, right? And do you have a policy on AI and a policy on ML, written policy? Do you have that right now in your organization? Is there a process for even updating those policies? What's that process? What's the process of review? You know how these things change. ChatGPT came out, everybody was, oh, wow, wonderful. Then GPT-4 came out, and the difference between ChatGPT and GPT-4 is huge. So ChatGPT was 3.5, and then you now have 4. 3.5 to 4 is a small jump. It's not. ChatGPT, when they give them exams to write, just like humans, we get exams. So they give them all sorts of exams. One of the exams I like is the one for the US bar. So for the lawyers in the US, the exams they do before becoming lawyers. ChatGPT was in the 20th percentile, basically the bottom 20%. GPT-4 that just came out 5 months or 6 months after ChatGPT is on the 90th percentile. It's better than 90% of all the lawyers in the US. That's GPT-4. So you basically have a lawyer there. So the change is huge. And unfortunately, most organizations are not ready. They don't have written processes. Who's responsible for when something happened, like I asked before, you've implemented this AI system and something happened, someone lost his life. Who is responsible for that, right? Who exactly is going to take the fall for AI? Because AI, just take AI as a staff, a member of staff, because technically it's a member of staff. And well, who's good? Does that staff take responsibility? Unfortunately, it won't. So who else would? Is it the CEO that will take the fall? So these governance issues and risk management strategies need to be clearly defined. Robust data governance, you need that. You need to even understand, okay, this algorithm we're using, can we say clearly how it works? What are the things that is something called algorithmic transparency? How transparent can people see exactly how this thing works? Unfortunately, as I said, generative AI, we don't know 100% of how it works, right? So that's why many companies are not using it directly. There needs to be a human at the end of it that will approve, right? So all these things happen, but there's a human that kind of needs to approve whatever decision that the AI systems have brought. But then there are certain things we need to define in our organization. When is a task best for AI? When is a task best for a human? You need to also define what that is. So there's a lot of governance that we need to put in place to ensure that we're able to take advantage of this. Yes, everybody right now is rushing, and it's like a wild, wild west right now. It's like a gold rush. So everybody's rushing and they are not putting those foundations in place. There's a big opportunity to put those foundations in place. I'll share that link to that my website to the companies that are trying to do that foundational thing, because people are just jumping hoops and not putting that foundation. So that's a huge opportunity, and it's also super important. Of course, I talked about data. Since data is pretty dirty, cleaning the data and making it more usable is also an opportunity. But I'll stop on the data governance piece and say that that's something critical we need to look at.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I want to apologize once again to our audience. I know we've gone above time. And I want to ask right now if there is any of our audience that have a question for any of our panelists. We'll just quickly take one or two questions and then take it for the day. So if you want to ask any question with a raise of hands, I would like to so that we can unmute you or so that you can ask that question. So, okay, and let me see if I have any question that is in the all right. Okay, yeah. I see that any question, I mean, the question that was there was for the music. I apologize for that once again. Um, so yeah, let's see. I just see a new message. I see a question that's saying, in what ways can AI be leveraged to enhance fraud detection and prevention in the financial institution while still respecting customer privacy? I believe that question is part of what Dr. Harrison also spoke about. I don't know if you just want to buttress on that a bit again, Dr. Harrison. So the person that has that question, yeah. Hello, Dr. Harrison, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just tried to read the question again so that I can understand. So this person is asking in what I thought I took time to explain how this is being done today.
Yeah.
But what it means is AI, we're leveraging AI. The financial industry is now becoming to improve in fraud detection. Okay. And what it means is that it's moving beyond just the protection of credentials to looking at behavior of the customer. And I will come to privacy shortly. Looking at behavior of the customer. But what it means is that today, your transaction patterns, transaction details are with the bank. Because for them to fulfill each transaction, they need to keep the records, okay? For disputes, for analytics, for every other reason, required by regulation, actually. So can we look at that data and use it to compare every subsequent transaction request from that customer? And with the help of AI, we can see when an in progress transaction is not in pattern, is not in sync, is not in alignment with the customer's prior transactions. Okay. Just for example, for monthly spenders, you will find out that if you do an analytics on what is taking your money every month, across 1 year, across 2 years, you may find out the concentration that what is taking your money is between certain things. Do you understand? It's usually concentrated when you do the word crowding. It will be concentrated. So just take that as an example of what happens here. So yes, AI is able to help look at it. So even when a customer now compromises his or her credentials. The system can look beyond those credentials to look at the pattern and identify transactions that are out of pattern, and then the organization can take additional steps to protect the customer. Yes, so that's how it's helping. How then privacy? So privacy, yes, a responsible AI. Privacy is a major issue in AI in this entirety. Do you understand? Because it exposes a lot of data. Even copyright issues are there. For example, you may not have access to a document, or document is a paid document. Then AI reads that document to provide you a response. Do you understand? There's already a copyright issue because you are not permitted, you're not cleared to have access or take resources from that document. That is being addressed generally. But in terms of fraud management, you really do not have that much because you're just looking at the customer's transaction patterns and with what customer has permitted you to see, and that's seen at machine level, where the output is now used to protect the customer. That's different from when the output is now beginning to use to create products or do every other thing. No, in this particular case, it's just the customer data for the protection of that customer transaction. I don't know if this helps throw more light, but there are so many things happening and evolving. And I can say it's just a matter of time, you will see that the fraud landscape will change because, again, I said fraud is not something that is going away. If you block one type, another type begins to evolve. Okay, so but I think the one around customer transaction, there's already a lot of restrictions that are oncoming, that it becomes more difficult for you to be able to completely successfully carry out such frauds. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I think this next question is for both of you, Dr. Harrison and Tika. And I think the question is more around the level of collaboration in the industry among financial institutions. So the fellow is asking, are the Nigerian financial institution, that is FASA IMO, or FASA IMO is asking, are the Nigerian financial institution looking to collaborate to solve industry-wide problems like fraud and credit analysis using AI by pulling their unique customer data together in a secure or a regulated manner? So I don't know. Yes, okay. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. I think I'll call speaker afterwards.
Okay, just to say yes, there's a lot of collaboration happening. You know, when it comes to what you're doing to fight fraud, it's usually not a public announcement kind of thing. Yeah, because in the same place you're announcing it, the person you're trying to run away from also be a key participant. Okay, so when it comes to conversation around fraud management, usually like a need to know conversation. Okay, where you can now go into detail. But I can assure you there's a lot of collaboration. Collaboration at all fronts. Compliance team are collaborating, cybersecurity CISOs are collaborating, audit team are collaborating. There are bankers committee that are collaborating. NIPS is coordinating. So there's a whole lot of work going into this. And I can tell you, if not for the progress, we could actually have more issues to deal with. Okay, but I can assure you there's a lot of progress happening. And as we continue to roll, there's some other interventions that are currently coming on. Okay, and you're seeing some of them even in some of the circulars and other things that you have seen in recent time. Most of those are outcome of collaboration and sitting down together to look at common threats and look at the interest of the customer. So that's happening. But in terms of detailing, usually not something that you want to discuss in a commercial way in this way. Okay. But yes, I can assure you from where I sit and from what I see, there's a lot of collaboration. It could be better, but I can also assure you there's been progress over the last few years, and I can see it's on the path of getting better. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll just support him with that. There's very high level collaborations going on with the regulators and the banks, and so, and I mean, like you said, circulars are coming out. Something came out on Monday as well, all in the bid to protect financial transactions and the customer. So he's spot on there. A lot of collaboration is going on, and banks engage, share a lot of information. And like you said, they're all security based as well to protect people, to protect financial transactions. So you won't be able to discuss a lot of that even on this type of platform. But yes, the focus is to protect the financial system. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience. It's been a very, very insightful discussion. Thank you to those who asked questions. Thank you, Olaide Akisoya. Thank you, my madam. I mean, and then for supporting me. And thank you, to Fasa for the question. And then I want to say one after the other to Dr. Harrison, to Kika, to David Brown, and then Bolabo Awelewa. Thank you so much for showing up and then for this insightful session. And then for me, there's a lot of takeaway, and a lot of people are saying, oh, AI is coming. How is it impacting in each of these industries? Financial industry is a very critical industry, and then we know how peculiar this industry is. Really, a lot on what we've discussed so far. And then I'll say to some level, there's a level of comfort to say that even if AI comes in, we can actually get some positive um, results from it. Thank you so much to our audience for always making time to come in here every time to join us. This is our second episode. Definitely next year month is the will be another session. And then I'll say ahead of time I'll be bringing all females to that session because that is the month of celebrating the female. And then we'll see what female leaders in the industry have concerning this topic of AI and then the future of work also for women leader. I mean, women in leadership role, and then AI, data, and security. What's the future for them? And so, thank you to everyone. And I think, in conclusion, the potential of generative AI in the financial industry is actually tremendous. However, with all of what our speakers have said, it is essential to prioritize ethical use and regulatory compliance of the two. And then as our understanding deepens and then the technology progresses, its impact will continue to evolve positively. So thank you once again, everyone, for showing up. And then this is where I'm going to say, do have I'll say have a very restful night, and I'll see you sometime next month. Bye from here. Bye everyone.
Thank you, MJ.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thanks everyone.